Jenny Pooh coming to you to give you a beginner's idea and information, a little bit of everything to help the beginner fashion designer or the beginner sewer, the beginning sewer, if you want to get into sewing or if you want to try to get into fashion design and you haven't done it yet. This is pretty much to give you an idea of what you should be doing or not doing, what books to buy, what books not to buy. And I thought I'd just make this video because when I first got started, I went through a lot of trial and error. I taught myself how to sew. My mother taught me the basics, and then I had to go and read books, watch videos, and I thought I'd just save the new beginner the trouble of going through some of the things that I went through. So if you want to get into sewing and you don't want to go take classes, you want to teach yourself, maybe to save money or time, or you just want to teach yourself, what you should do is find yourself some great books. And you might say, how do I learn how to sew from books? But you can do it. It's not that hard. Sewing is not rocket science, but what it takes is a lot of practice. I'm talking practice. You're going to make the ugliest things you have ever created in anyone's life in the beginning. But once you get the hang of it, you'll be making beautiful garments, whatever you want to make. If you want to make quilts, you're making great quilts. And if you want to make men's clothes, you make beautiful suits. But in the beginning, what you create is not going to look so hot. And you have to know that. It takes a lot of practice. I say it took me 2 years after beginning sewing to really have something that looked presentable that I would wear outside the house. And I like to work to make clothes. So that's what I like to do. And here I'm going to give you some great books at first. One book that you should get is by Singer. And what it does, I can't remember the name, I'm sorry. But if you go on Amazon.com and type in Singer how-to sewing books, it should pop up. It may have the old red cover, or it might have the new cover, which I think is a picture of a blue sewing room on the cover. And that book is great. And let's see. Another book that I recommend is by Connie and Maiden Crawford. Her books start for the beginning sewer who may go into the fashion industry, but they're great for the beginning also. And if you want to see someone do something hands-on, you're that type of person, you have to watch a great line of how-to sewing videos. It is youcanmakeit.com. Youcanmakeit.com. And that is a great line of videos. Just type it in Google. I think they're not super cheap. I mean, you're going to pay maybe $20, I think it's $20 or $30 now for a DVD. But what you get in the video, the quality sometimes isn't so great, but the teacher, she's a really great teacher. She starts from the beginning in the first video, and then she works all the way to welted pockets and a little bit of tailoring, and she'll show you how to alter your clothing a little bit in some of the last videos. And I bought her, I don't have her videos anymore because I've practiced, I know what to do, so I really don't need help with sewing anymore. And when I moved, I actually left them in my mother's garage. But they're a great line of videos if you want to get into sewing. And I'm going to go into fashion design now. If you want to get into fashion design, also just like sewing, which is a part of fashion design, it's not rocket science, but what it takes is a lot of practice. A lot of practice to get your drawings down. You want to have great drawings, and you can learn how to draw. It's not rocket science. It's practice. And you might say, I can't draw. Well, you have to practice. There's a science to it. There's some great fashion drawing books you can buy on Amazon.com. But the one that I recommend is called Fashion Drawing. And it starts from the very beginnings of making croquets, which are pretty much just pretty much a blank drawing that you could use over and over again. And it teaches you 9 heads, because with fashion drawing, you want to start with 9 heads drawing, and the average drawing might have 7 heads for a person, drawing a person. And that's taking your head and bringing it so that your drawings can be more proportional. I'm not going to get into that, but I think the book is just called Fashion Drawing, and it'll give you the basics. It talks about making a mood board, a presentation board, and that's important too. Fashion is part. Well, look at me talking about fashion. Look what I have on today, but it's just a regular day. I thought I'd make this video for you guys. So what I have on, I guess it's not that important, but fashion is 1 part sewing. You have to know your sewing. 1 part drawing. You have to know how to draw. 1 part pattern making. Pattern making is important. And there's a great book on pattern making from Hilda. Her name is Hilda Jaffe. It's Hilde and then Jaffe. It's 2 different people. But she has a book on draping, and if you want to start pattern making, what you should do is start with a great draping book, because it's easier to go to draping to drafting patterns. And drafting is when you start on paper instead of on the dress form. And draping is when you start on the dress form and not on paper. And then you work your way to paper for when you work with draping. And I recommend that for the beginning pattern maker. And a great book on pattern making is, what is her name? I can't remember her name, but just type into Amazon.com drafting sewing patterns, type that in, or draping, and make sure you get a book. You look at the description, you look at what other people put in the box, whether or not they liked it or not. And sewing is another part, business mind. You should know trends, you should know how to watch and see what's going to sell for the season. You have to know the history of fashion, what mistakes were made, so you can know what mistakes not to make. It's important, and it's trial and error in the beginning. Don't be upset if you're not making the best patterns, or you're not making the best dresses, your hems are crooked. Just keep trying and keep working, and your creations will look better and better and better. So anyone who wants to get into fashion, if you have a creative mind and you're patient, because sewing is very tedious and it can take a lot of steps, and if you're not a patient person, maybe you want to get into the fashion business or fashion retailing, because fashion design and sewing takes a lot of patience and time to learn. But if you practice, you'll get better. And those are my tips. Hope you enjoyed them. And I'll talk to you another time. Happy sewing.